Chapter 21. Martin looked and smelled like a man who had slept in his clothes, though, to be fair, he had. The faint, sour tang of sweat and yesterday's coffee clung to him, a reluctant aura of someone who had been in too many places for too long without a proper break. His appearance wasn't a statement. It was collateral damage from living in his own head. He reached for his coffee cup, now empty, and stared into it as if willing caffeine residue to materialize into something useful. Martin rubbed his chin, his gaze fixed on the latest field reports, the cause of his angst. The original trials with Garrett's code had mostly gone to plan, aside from that one unexpected collision. The kangaroos had been effectively driven out, clearing the fields, and the buzz around the project was building. He'd even started receiving nods from management and an expanded budget. There were whispers of bigger things and, for the first time, murmurs of a promotion. He could have a real office, walls, a door. He could already picture it, a space where he could close out the incessant hum of cubicle neighbors and the chatter of interns who thought they knew everything. But then Stella's latest code updates arrived, full of safety protocols meant to minimize risk. They called it a necessary adjustment, cautioning that the drone's aggressive deterrence could harm wildlife and even people if something went wrong. Reluctantly, Martin had let Garrett implement the new protocols. The project, he figured, couldn't afford another kangaroo collision. Yet the next trial was a setback. The drones hesitated, their responses dulled by the precautionary measures. The deterrence was less effective. The drones didn't pursue the kangaroos as quickly or consistently. Weeks of progress seemed to have evaporated overnight. Martin tapped his fingers on the desk. His jaw clenched. This wasn't just an inconvenience. It threatened the entire project timeline, the results he'd promised management, and, worst of all, his ascent up the office hierarchy. He could feel the promotion slipping through his fingers, the possibility of that coveted office fading. He needed results, now. He picked up the phone and dialed an external consultant recommended by a manager who knew how to get things done. With his increased budget, he could afford to hire someone experienced. This contractor had a reputation for speed. When the consultant arrived later that week, Martin didn't waste any time. "Just put it back to before the update," Martin said, his voice low. "Those adjustments are holding us up. Drones need to be in full deterrence mode." His tone was firm, his impatience plain. The consultant nodded, unfazed. This was familiar territory. Companies brought him in to sidestep red tape and get results. "Understood. I'll revert the recent changes," he confirmed. "I'll also deactivate Garrett's access. The last thing you need are any surprise updates." Martin's eyes narrowed with approval. "Too right. I need those drones going full tilt. This project's got to hit the mark or it's done for. And if we nail this, if we can prove it works, we won't just be saving crops." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper, eyes gleaming as he imagined the wider reach. Control over land, livestock, and maybe more. The changes were implemented. Garrett's account was quietly disabled, and the drones were back to their original aggressive deterrence mode. The test showed immediate improvement. The drones chased off intruders, responding faster and with new autonomy. Martin watched the metrics, the numbers climbing in his favor. It felt good, powerful even, to know that he alone was steering this project now without Garrett's cautious hand at the wheel. He packed up for the weekend, shutting down his computer with a feeling of accomplishment. He'd done what was necessary and made the hard call. This was the kind of leadership management wanted, decisive and outcome-focused. As he walked out of the building, he could practically feel that office just within reach. He didn't second-guess the choices he'd made. He had no idea that Alice's project was set up to include all of his project's code automatically, and in his haste to push his project forward, he had updated her project and any other projects connected to hers as well.